Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, my name is Bongi and thank you so very much for tuning in. I hope that you will find this video enjoyable and informative enough for you to subscribe and join us every Wednesday as we talk about these true crime cases. Now, I know that this video is quite different from the usual videos that we have on this channel, but bear with me. We will have our normal videos pretty soon, but for now I just thought that I should bring the content to you and not necessarily my face, because I know that most of you guys watch these videos just for the true crime information and not necessarily to see my beautiful face. So yeah, we're gonna be having these faceless videos for a while, just for a short while, until I get things back in order, just until I get my life back in order. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about the disappearance and murder of police constable Frances Rasuge. Have you heard of her? Do you know her? I personally had never heard of her until one of you guys requested that I do a video on her disappearance that, eventually led to her murder. And to be quite honest, it's frightening. It's really frightening to think that a police officer could get murdered. It's really scary because we expect these people to be sort of superheroes, invincible. I mean, we know people die, people can get murdered, but I think it's scary that someone in the police force can just get murdered this way. But as the details of this case unfolds, you guys will see sort of how it happened, and you will understand more, obviously. So who was Frances Rasuge? Frances Rasuge was, at the time of her disappearance, a police constable. She took great pride in her job and understood the importance and gravity of being a police officer. And as such, she would show up to work every single time. And if she couldn't show up or wouldn't show up, she would notify her superiors ahead of time and give them a reason as to why she wouldn't be able to show up to work. She just really loved her job and understood the importance of being a police officer, a police constable. Frances lived with her parents, twin sister Wilhelmina, and brother Opa in their family home in Hammanskraal. And this family was a tight-knit family. They were really close, and I think that's the reason why their adult children didn't really want to move out and didn't think of moving out, because the family was just close like that. And so they always knew of each other's whereabouts. I mean, they were adults, so they didn't tell every single member of the family everything about their affairs, but there would always be somebody in the family who knew of their whereabouts. They would tell somebody that, oh, I'm going to see a friend at this place, or I'm going to this place. They wouldn't really tell them what they were going to do, but they would tell them of their whereabouts just for safety purposes, I am assuming. Early in the year 2000, Constable Frances Rasuge got into a relationship with a married man who went by the name of William Nkuna. William was 44 at the time, and Frances was just about 23 or 24. And William was not only a married man, but he also had kids with his wife. Their relationship was on and off. It was on again, off again. It was one of those relationships. And William Nkuna was reportedly very abusive towards Frances during these times when they were on again. Frances's family knew of the abuse, and early in January of 2004, Frances's mother called William to tell him to stay away from her daughter. So what had happened was Frances and William had gone to a New Year's Eve party, and there they had an altercation. They had an argument of some sort, and Nkuna ended up laying his hands on Frances. So Frances went home, and when she got there, she told her parents about the altercation. I guess maybe they saw the bruises, or she just wasn't fine, but somehow they ended up talking about Nkuna laying his hands on her. And so Frances's mother, as an attempt to protect her daughter decided to call Nguna to tell him to stay the hell away from her daughter. But Nguna refuses. And he not only refused, but he also threatened to kill Frances and himself before ever deciding or choosing to leave Frances alone. This guy was crazy, but he was also reportedly very feared in the community. A lot of people in the community just were scared of William Nguna, and it wasn't something that nobody really knew why people were scared of him, but people were just scared of William Nguna. So, I'm pretty sure Frances's mother, upon hearing this threat, was quite shaken up, and Frances was too. So Frances decided to stay, but it wasn't really a voluntary decision. She just sort of did it to protect herself. But eventually she gained the courage to tell Nguna that, hey, buddy, it's over. Like, I don't want you anymore. And William Nguna just wasn't having it, and he continued stalking Frances. But Frances was not part of the relationship anymore. And so in March of 2004, she got into a relationship with a different man. And this man knew that Frances had gotten into a relationship with William Nguna, but he didn't really know if they were still in contact. And I don't think he knew much about the stalking situation that was going on. But fast forward to May of 2004, Frances actually got a protection order against William Nguna, and she also laid a charge against him, which she later withdrew. So I really don't know why she withdrew the case, and I don't know what happened, why she decided to lay a charge against him, but she did, and she later decided to withdraw those charges, but the protection order still remained. So we don't really know what happened between the months of May and August between William and Frances. We don't know whether the pair decided to just stay friends or to stay in communication. We really don't know, because Frances was still in a relationship with her man, but William Nguna was constantly trying to get back together with her. So we don't know what happened, but we're just going to skip straight to Friday, the 27th of August, 2004, which is the day that Frances Rasuge went missing. That weekend, Frances and her boyfriend Edna had plans to go attend a funeral at Edna's family home. And so Frances decided that in preparation for this funeral, she was gonna go to Lade's hair salon to get her hair relaxed. So that was her plan for the Friday. She was gonna go get her hair relaxed and then go to Edna's place, and then together they would go to the funeral, or the family home where the funeral was going to be taking place. So Friday, the 27th of August 2004, early in the morning, Frances gets ready to go to Lade's hair salon, and she realizes that her phone is not charged. So she decides to ask her brother Opa if they could just switch phones, if Frances could insert her SIM card into Opa's phone and then leave with it while hers remained at home and was charging, and then she would come back home, swap the phones, and then take hers and leave with it. I don't know if that's making sense, but that was the plan, and that was the agreement that Frances and her brother reached. So they swapped the phones, and Frances headed out to Lade's hair salon, which was owned by Desmond Mkonto, and it was situated in Temba. Now, this hair salon was a small hair salon in the garage of Desmond's home, and it could only accommodate about 2 clients at a time. It was a really small hair salon, a township hair salon. I'm pretty sure some of you guys listening to this have been to one of those salons. They're really fun because it's sort of a small salon, and you guys can just talk and have a blast in the salon, And also, Frances was Desmond's regular client. She came there quite often, but she wasn't really a talkative one. She just kept to herself, and she would add in a few words, during the salon gossip, but she didn't really say much. So she went there, she got her hair relaxed, and when she was done, she actually told Desmond that somebody else would be paying, and she asked if she could call that person. and she called William Nkuna. William Nkuna arrived at Lade's hair salon, got out of his car, and paid for Frances's hair. And then he asked Frances where she was heading. Frances told him that she was heading to the taxi rank somewhere near a ShopRite complex. And so William Nkuna offered her a ride. Frances agreed. But unfortunately, this would be the last time that anybody saw Frances Rasuge alive. So when Frances didn't show up at Edna's place that Friday, Edna got a little bit worried, and after a few unsuccessful attempts of reaching her, he just decided that he would leave without her, and then maybe Frances would show up later on or would call or something. But on Saturday, when Frances still didn't show up to the funeral, Edna got really concerned, and he decided to just call her family and let them know that Frances didn't show up. And so obviously, the family was also worried, and that's when they actually realized that Frances didn't come back home to swap the phones like she had said she would. And the phone that was on her was off. Every time they tried to call her, they wouldn't get through to her, and the phone was just evidently off. She was also supposed to go to work that very Saturday. And so when she wasn't there, when some of her co-workers went to pick her up, they knew that something was wrong. This was so unlike Frances. She wasn't this person. She would inform them if she wasn't going to be going to work, and she would have kept her word and come back home to swap the phones. So everybody just knew that this wasn't like Frances, and something had really gone wrong. Frances's dad then decided to call William Nkuna to ask if he knew where Frances was, and William said he didn't know. The last time he saw her was when he dropped her off at the taxi rank like she had asked him to. So after talking to Nkuna, they all just concluded that nobody knew where Frances was, and so they decided to file a missing persons report. So Frances's colleagues decided to head over to Lade's hair salon to talk to Desmond Mkonto, because that was the last known place where Frances was at, right? Nobody really knew if she made it to the taxi rank, but everybody knew that she was there. She was at Lade's hair salon. She did get her hair relaxed. And so when they were talking to Desmond Mkonto, Desmond told them that Frances left with Nkuna. He told them everything, that Frances was there, she got her hair relaxed and styled, and then when it was time for her to pay, she said that William Nkuna would be paying. She called William Nkuna, who showed up, paid, and then offered her a lift, which Frances accepted. So that was Desmond's story, and so the police left with it. But I mean, I guess they already knew that Frances had left with William, because William did say on the phone that he dropped Frances off at the taxi rank. I don't know how much the police knew at this point. Maybe the father forgot to mention it, but that's the story that they got from Desmond Mkonto. And what's crazy is that 2 days after Desmond told the police about William Nkuna, he died, and his death was really suspicious. But I'm gonna get back to that, and I'm gonna give you guys the details of his death later on, so stay tuned. But it's just insane that 2 days after you mention William Nkuna's name, you die. Like, it's crazy. It's weird. It's really insane, and the family actually believe that William Nkuna has something to do with it, but it was ruled that he died of natural causes. But it was pretty suspicious. But anyway, so the police decide that they're gonna trace the cell phone that was on Frances, right? They're gonna trace it, try to see if they can locate it, and hopefully they could find Frances. That was their thought process. They thought maybe we'll find Frances if we trace the cell phone. And they traced it to Hammanskraal Town Center. But when they got there, it wasn't in Frances's possession. It wasn't in William Nkuna's possession. It wasn't in Desmond Mkonto's possession. It was, in fact, in somebody else's possession, and this person told them that the phone had been sold to him the day before the police showed up. So, yeah, whoever that was really trying to get rid of the phone. So the police had a great idea to show this man a picture of William Nkuna, and this man positively identified him as the man who sold the phone to him. So William Nguna had sold this guy Frances Rasuge's phone. Weird. Weird. Everybody was mentioning William Nguna's name, right? Desmond was mentioning it. I'm assuming that the family also mentioned William Nguna's name and his behavior over the last couple of months. And also, this guy at Hammondscroll Center just told them that he was basically sold the phone. The phone was basically sold to him by William Nguna. And so on the 30th of August, which was 3 days after Frances went missing, the police told William Nguna that he is a suspect. So they took him into custody to talk to him about a few things, and while there, they asked him about the phone and how come that guy positively identified him as the man who sold him the phone. And William oddly said that Frances gave him the phone because his phone had I guess his phone had broken down or it had glitched or something, but his phone wasn't working, and Frances offered him the cell phone, which wasn't even hers, but I guess William didn't know that. And also, the police caught him in a lie because, get this, his phone was working, and it had been working on the 27th when Frances went missing, and it was still working on that day. So it was just pretty much a lie, and they caught him in it. But the story that he was selling to the police was that Frances gave him the phone. On the 6th of September, the police got a search warrant on William Nguna's car because they knew at this point that Frances had been in that car, but nobody knew for sure if she had indeed made it to the taxi rank or not. But what they did know was that Frances got into that car on the day of her disappearance. And so they searched this car, and get this, blood traces or blood patches were found on the mat in the boot, and it was quite evident, quite clear that William had attempted to clean the blood in the boot, but fortunately he didn't get all of it, and so the police were able to get the blood, and it was tested, and it was indeed Frances Rasuge's blood. And so William Nguna was arrested and charged with causing her disappearance. So there's two different reports about what William Nguna said when asked about this blood that was found in the boot of his car. So the first report was that William Nguna said that he and Frances had sex and that Frances was on her period, and so the blood on the mat was because Frances was on her period. But the second report says that William said that he and Frances enjoyed having in the car, and that Frances liked rough sex, or the both of them liked it rough, and so Frances would bleed from time to time, and so that's where the blood came from the rough sexual intercourse. And then he went on to say that he would clean the blood because he had a wife and he had children, and he didn't want his family to know about his affair. But there's another report that says that Frances, like the family, actually knew about their affair. So I don't know, but his explanation was basically that that's how the blood got there. Soon after William's arrest, it is alleged that he admitted to killing Frances, and that he said that he and his traditional healer Madimeja Phineas Kutumela had killed her together and used some of her body parts to make muti. And so, Phineas was arrested. Nguna had also allegedly said that the two of them had killed other people for muti in the past, but Phineas denied every single thing that was said by William Nguna, and he actually went on to sue the state, saying that he was tortured during the time when he was in custody, and that they took him to different locations just to torture him, and they ended up forcing him to make a false confession. He sued the state successfully. I forgot to research how much money he actually made, but he sued the state successfully. He was tortured and tortured and tortured, and eventually, all charges against him were dropped because I guess there wasn't anything lucrative that they could get from him. He was making this false confession. He didn't know where the body was. He didn't know what Nguna had done to Frances, but he was just doing it so that the torture could just end. But thankfully, all charges against Phineas Kutumela were dropped. So William Nguna does end up going to trial, right? And he was, I think, charged with murder, but it was one of those bodiless murder cases. But somehow he did end up getting convicted. I guess the circumstantial evidence was just too compelling for them not to convict him. So he did get convicted and he did get sentenced, but he never ever mentioned where Frances's body was until 8 years later when Frances Rasuge's body was found. So her family went for 8 years without knowing where the child's body was. But anyways, let's fast forward this to 8 years later, right? Frances's body was found in the yard of William Nkuna's RDP home. So they had sold his house, his RDP home, and there were contractors at the yard, and they broke through a cement slab in the backyard, and that's where they found her body, and her body was naked and bound. They found it underneath a slab of cement in William Nkuna's yard. So she was buried sort of in plain sight, because I don't think anybody thought Nkuna had hidden Frances's body at his place. It's just insane. Could you imagine his family members just walking over Frances's body without even knowing that there was somebody buried there? It's just insane. It's crazy. It's heartless. So do you remember earlier on when I mentioned that Desmond died under suspicious circumstances? So after the discovery of Frances's remains, Desmond's family was just really wounded, and they spoke out. It turns out that Frances's discovery, the discovery of her remains, they scabbed their wounds. Their wounds they were trying to heal, but this just reminded them of the trauma that they endured, and so they spoke out. So what happened was, doctors ruled that Desmond died of natural causes, but the family just couldn't accept it because of everything that happened. So Desmond, after talking to the police and telling the police that William Nguna was the one who fetched Frances, he suddenly got ill the day after he spoke to the police. Okay. So when his grandmother asked him what was up with him, he just told her that he just woke up and his hands were not well. His hands felt a little bit numb, and he tried going to the kitchen to grab something to eat, but he couldn't walk properly. So I guess it was both his hands and his legs or feet. So he went back to his room and he just laid down for a bit. He then decided that he wanted to work, but because his hands were numb, he just couldn't work. He couldn't do anything because his hands were numb, and his work was pretty, I guess all of us, we need our hands to do our work. So if your hands are numb, if your hands cannot operate properly, function properly, you're pretty much not going to be able to work, right? So after a while, he couldn't walk anymore. After a while of his hands and feet feeling this weird sensation, Desmond couldn't walk anymore, and then his family decided to take him to the hospital. But unfortunately, when they got to the hospital, Desmond just couldn't speak anymore, and doctors didn't know how to treat his condition. They didn't know what was wrong with him, and eventually Desmond did die in hospital, and the doctors ruled that he died of natural causes. But his family blame Nkuna. They believe that he probably sent somebody to poison Desmond, or that he dealt with him traditionally, that he went to like a sangoma. For those of y'all who don't know what a sangoma is, it's an African traditional healer. Some of these people heal, but some of them use their powers, their gifts to do evil stuff, basically. So they thought that he either sent somebody to poison him, or he dealt with him traditionally. So he went to a traditional healer, and I think they probably thought the traditional healer that he went to was Phineas Madimecha Kutumela, but I am not sure. But they believed it was one of two things. He either poisoned him or dealt with him traditionally. But I think since doctors couldn't find the cause, it was probably maybe traditionally. I don't know, that's just my opinion though. But really, truly speaking, like I said, William Nkuna was feared by people in the community. Some of the witnesses who even took the stand, you could hear the fear in their voices. They were just scared of him. I think maybe it's one of those situations where people are scared to talk, thinking that maybe this person will not get imprisoned and then they will come out and they'll come after me and my family. I think that that was the case for the witnesses, but I really don't know. However, it is said that you could hear the fear in the witnesses' voices as they were speaking. But also, here's another thing. It is believed that William Nkuna had killed before. You remember he said to the police that he had killed, but he killed with Phineas. Now, no, this one is just strictly Nguna, okay? It is believed that Nguna had killed before. Nobody knows how many people he has killed exactly, but there's a former businessman and manager of, I guess, SP Penton Hotel in Midrand. He was 42 years old and his name was Ruben Kabini. He disappeared in 2001 and he was last seen with William Nguna. Just like Frances Rasuge disappeared in 2004 and she was last seen with William Nguna. Now they were together in Temba on the 2nd of December 2001 and his Nissan Sentra, the car, is it Nissan or Nissan? His Nissan Sentra was later found burned in the veld in Bosplas, near Hammanskraal. And when the police took the family to the scene, the car had vanished. The car had disappeared when the police took the family to the scene, right? And his cell phone, I'm so sorry, his cell phone was found years later in Frances Rasuge's sister's possession. So I'm assuming that William must have given it to Frances. I don't know, but the connection is undeniable, okay? The connection here is William Nkuna. How it got to Frances Rasuge's sister, we do not know, but I'm assuming that William must have given it to Frances, who then gave it to her sister, okay? I mean, this man was last seen with William Nkuna, and then he was never seen again. And then later, his phone resurfaces, Ruben's phone resurfaces, and it's in Frances Rasuge's possession. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think not. I hope you found this video informative and enjoyable. If you did, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. I'm aware that today I was very all over the place. I was talking about a lot of things, adding a lot of things into one and just rambling over and over again, just like I am right now. And I don't know, I feel like some of you guys might like that. So if you do, let me know in the comment section. But if you don't, also let me know in the comment section so that next time I know what to change, what to add, what to exclude, and stuff like that. But that is it from me to you. I'll see you guys in my next one, and also don't forget to subscribe. But anyway, I'll see you next week. Bye.